So, welcome back to cross-cultural communications. Today we're talking about business, social customs, the importance of small talk. The idea of chit chat is valuable. This is an interesting point because my personality style, although there are 16 different types of personality style, my personality style is usually to avoid chit chat, avoid this small talk. So I'm very interested in it. I would like everybody to be aware, maybe take a photo of this because I want you all to be able to open this file because today I want to get you into the groups talking about the importance of different aspects of small talk. So just to show you examples, this is an example of the files we have today. We're going to go through, I'm going to show you two different examples of small talk, and then we're going to talk about simple verbal expressions. And then the second example, I'm going to get group 2 to start talking about superstitions and taboos. And as you can see here, group 3 is talking about office customs and practices. Group 4 or group 5 talking about bribery. Group 4 is anyway, the number of stars represents your group number. I'm going to divide you into groups. You will see which group you're in, and whatever group you're in, match your group number with the number of stars and just talk about that with your group. Find some examples so you can summarize it and teach it to the class. So, who's here today? Arfine, can you summarize what I just said related to the number of stars?
Professor, actually, I just come right now.
Okay.
So I don't know. Yes.
Strike 2 so far for me. What about Maria? Can you help summarize what did I just say about the stars? 3 stars, 6 stars. What did I mean by that, Maria?
It was a group number. Was it?
You're doing very well for the high context culture using 1 or 2 words. Can you use a few more words to explain what you're trying to say?
So the stars, I guess, from what I got, and you said the stars, like if there's a 3 stars, that means it means group 3.
Sure.
Is that it?
So this is cultural topics, cultural topics, cultural topics. So group 3 just goes through this and tries to find an example to teach this to the class and teach this main concept related to small talk and business culture. And for group 4, it's talking about office customs and business practices. So group 4 would study this one, this is office culture, office customs, present those to the class with an example. And group 5 might be talking about bribery. So yes, but to start with, I want to go through and start talking about the idea of small talk and business customs. It's complicated, and you should, just like everything we've been teaching in class, try to research details before you interact with that other culture. And it's best overall if you try to mimic or mirror the examples that you see. Doing what you think is good, as we identified last week, that could be very bad. Last week we saw, for example, that there was many, just trying to get people in the international etiquette, some cultures, they think this means good, versus in other cultures, it's the same thing as giving them a middle finger. Some cultures think this is good, versus in other cultures, it means the same thing as the middle finger, something very bad. So don't do what you think is good when you're trying to do well in a different culture. Why not? because that's ethnocentric. Just respecting your own way of what's good and bad not only could be wrong, but quite often it could insult or make the other cultural people feel bad. So there are customs and behaviors generally expected in specific situations. They're established, socially acceptable, but it depends on the value, it depends on the culture. You need to learn those details. Examples of this include eating turkey on Thanksgiving. However, in Korea, up until recently, it's very hard to find a turkey. It's not easy to get it in the whole country. We talk about that because basically it's Thanksgiving in the United States. Anything after Thanksgiving in the United States becomes the beginning of Christmas. Versus me in Canada, it's Christmas all year. So, chit chat, small talk or light conversation is important in getting to know someone. How can you get to know somebody if you're not really supposed to do your style of conversation if it's going to offend somebody? That idea of chit chat often includes comments about the weather, the physical surroundings, the day's news, almost anything of non-substantive nature. However, am I allowed to talk to you about your clothes? I'm talking to one person. Usually, many people in North America and Europe would say, no problem. Saying I have nice clothes or you like the jacket is usually perfectly okay. Do you guys think it's the same everywhere? No questions asked, talking about clothes is okay. What about talking about clothes for a girl? Do you know of any countries where there are some restrictions to talking to other girls, let alone talking about their clothes? Anybody? Once? Nobody? I think we have several people from the Middle East or Uzbekistan, Islamic.
Well, yeah, I was about to say.
Okay, explain your culture.
Well, I guess we talked about it last time in the class. Not only in Uzbekistan, I guess it is it is in every Muslim countries. Like you're not supposed to talk directly to the woman, or you're not supposed to like like handshake or contact with women and men between.
I'm talking about a lady's shirt, nice shirt. That's an attractive skirt.
Well, you can't do that, I guess.
I can.
Yes.
I have somebody in my class here that's saying, no. Okay. But my point is, this, even its textbook, it's written by experts, and yet these words can still offend people. So the point is, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you've studied, make sure when you go to a place, when you're interacting with somebody, try to do research beforehand. Number two, try to mimic the culture of other people there. Even then, if you go from New York to Korea or Japan and you see people eating at a table and you start copying them, if the oldest guy is doing something and you do the same thing as the oldest guy there, that may insult other people. If you're drinking at the same time, eating at the same time, some of those things may insult people. So be careful, try to research in advance, try to prepare in advance. This first page also talks about United States, Canadians, and Australians. Several people from those countries, they think it's normal, they think it's good, they think it's nice to be sarcastic to other people. Sometimes to have barbs on their conversations. Having barbs on the conversations sometimes means hurtful or could be insulting words. So they think it's okay to insult their friends and their colleagues. Obviously, if you're visiting somebody there, you start insulting them, you may not do very well in business. So pay attention to this. And then today, you may be divided into different groups and try to find an example to teach some of these things that somebody else may misunderstand, and yet you should be an expert in that. So let's go through this. Verbal expressions. We're just going to go through a few verbal expressions to start with. And hopefully I haven't offended anybody with this stuff. Hopefully people from the other countries can help me improve this. This says small talk seems to pose problems for people from other cultures. For example, Germans do not believe in small talk. Just get right to the point. What do you want? What's the contract? Are we going to do business or not? Swedes, usually they're fluent in English, and yet they're the same thing. They have nothing small talk to talk about. So they say, except just talking about work. Japanese, they say they're frightened by the idea of small talk, as are people in Finland, that basically there's not much to do with small talk. And when they're doing international business, they actually have to buy books on it before they go to North America or other cultures. So any Germans, Swedes, Japanese, or Finnish people in our group today that want to either confirm this or improve this, correct this? I thought I had some Germans here. No? Okay, we'll just say I'm correct. So I'm going to show you now two videos, and they're both just simple, short videos about small talk. But I want you guys to just compare this. What's the difference between one and the other? So the first one is generally talking about Americans. And this is it here.
Hi, I'm Laura Caton from Caton Consulting, and today I'll be sharing techniques with you for how to transition from small talk to business talk. Regardless of the environment, but specifically at a networking function, it's important to make people feel comfortable around you.
So far, it's talking about making people feel comfortable. I want to make sure you guys are comfortable. Can you guys, first of all, hear this? Jasser, can you hear this okay?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Were you able to see the words? Is this too fast? Any comments? Do you guys want the subtitles faster, slower? Or is this okay? The speed okay?
I think it's okay.
Okay. If anybody wants it sped up or slowed down, please comment.
It's a great way to build rapport. And one of the most effective ways to make someone feel comfortable is to make small talk.
We had such a great vacation. We went down to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico.
I've been there before. It's beautiful.
I'd like to go. I was there last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's beautiful down
It
there.
was very hot, but it was very relaxing.
A great way to start the conversation is small talk. Talk about your recent vacation, the weather, or something fun that happened. Once you've had a few sentences to warm up the group, try to transition seamlessly into business talk. But remember, you don't want to get too heavy into actual business conversation.
We did go into the beach over by the arch.
Well, the vacation was just spectacular, and I'll tell you, it was so refreshing to be away, but I'm happy to be back at work now, and this is such a great event to come back to. What brings you guys here?
So how can you transition successfully from small talk to business talk? Ask the people who you're speaking with why they're attending the event, what they're looking to gain from the event, or how they heard about the event.
Points to remember. How do you transition seamlessly from small talk to business talk? Well, first you want to ask the people you're speaking with why they attend the event. Who told them about the event? Or what do they hope to gain from the event? That's a very easy way to segue into more serious business conversation. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, so in addition to what she just said, I'd like to add in a popular international business, you guys are interested in cross-cultural communications. These American business people did not talk anything about their business titles or age or name cards at all. However, I would suggest all of you, whether you have a job or not, you should have a name card. And when you're interviewing somebody else, it is not bad anywhere to be able to share your contacts, your name card with somebody else. Why I'm talking about it is not to promote you. That's a valuable part of it. But if you really want to grow in the corporate ladder, if you want to be successful, you should be collecting as many name cards as possible. And one part of this small talk is either before the conference or after the conference, send thank you notes or nice to have met you notes or please stay in touch notes. Building your contacts is definitely the best way to develop with cross-cultural communications. Now, that was a simple one. Here is another one, a little bit more formal, BBC. First of all, is the BBC, the British, the same as Americans? Any ideas? Is there many significant differences or are they generally cousins? Almost the same family. Any ideas, any comments?
I mean, I'm not British, but from what I've seen, they seem like pretty similar, like cousins from across the pond.
Okay, pretty similar. What about similar to that part of the pond? What about Scandinavia? Are Swedes, people from Sweden, are they significantly different than Americans or British? Anybody have any idea about that? No comments? Anyway, the point is this video is a BBC video, but it's talking about translating the thoughts of Swedish people. And it's a pretty good understanding of the business concepts of small talk.
Talk is those kind of in themselves unimportant topics. If you ask people what's the purpose of talking, then many Swedes will say, oh, to give information, but that's really not what it's about.
Nu är ingen i trappuppgången. Om jag skyndar mig nu så slipper jag träffa grannen.
The video is basically just started. Has anybody noticed anything special about the culture so far?
I noticed that before going out, she looked around through her the door thing. I don't know what's called in English.
The people, yes.
She checked if there is people or anything in the hallway.
And there's at least two reasons to do that. Some people may not notice what you just notified. So if there's a door like this, you're supposed to look through the hole before you go out for some people. And there's at least two reasons for it. Anybody guess what are two reasons to check before you go out?
Well, I am guessing the first one is probably she doesn't want to contact or talk with anyone, so she's trying to avoid people. Yeah, that's the first thing that might be right.
The second is unfortunately safety. Some girls are not safe in other countries. Actually, it's not just girls, also some guys may not be safe in other countries. So looking through the hole, checking if it looks safe before you go out is a good practice when you're traveling. But for Swedes, they're not really focused on the safety. They're in this video, they're focused on she's trying to avoid other people. Let's take a look.
Hej!
Åh nej, nu småpratar den här också.
Hey,
Nu måste jag säga någonting innan hon tycker jag är skum. Vädret? Jag vet inte hur vädret är idag.
Fint väder.
Vädret? Jag vet inte hur vädret är idag.
Ja, jättefint.
Nu måste jag säga någonting innan han tycker att jag är helt självupptagen. Och se den här hissen här. Kom igen.
Nu har jag inlett konversationen. Jättestelt. Ska jag säga något mer innan hon tycker jag är den skumma väderkillen?
Hejdå.
If there's one message, it would be that small talk is really big. It's just the topics that are small. The biggest problem for Swedes to understand is that it has a meaning even if you're talking about the weather. But the meaning is not the weather. If you want to know about the weather, you ask a meteorologist. The meaning is, let's have a little connection.
What she just said is the most important part of this whole class. Can you repeat, summarize what she just said in the last 5 seconds?
Can I answer? He said that the important thing about small talk isn't the topic they're talking about, but about making a connection with the other person.
Okay, we just had somebody from Uzbekistan answering that, but yes, the same thing. The idea of small talk is to develop your social capital, develop your connections, develop your relations. The idea for international success is being able to connect with other people. And regular chit chat, just talking about the weather, is actually not that important. What is most important is trying to develop a connection, a relationship with other people. If you do want to do well with business, you need to have many name cards, you need to have many connections, you need to have many people that are able to help you. So start developing that now.
Basically, Swedish people want to avoid small talk situations, and in order to do that, they avoid eye contact. And Swedes have developed different strategies to do that. For example, when they see you coming towards you in your direction on the streets, they just stare somewhere else, for example in a shopping window, or they just take out their phones and stare at that. And while they do that, they have actually mastered the competence, the skill of navigating through crowded places just by staring there and using their peripheral vision.
Är inte det Jonas från högstadiet? Kolla bort så kanske han inte ser mig.
Wow, Klara. Har inte sett henne sedan 9:an. Hej, hur är läget? Det var länge sedan sist.
Hej,
Hur är läget?
det är bra. Ska du också ta bussen?
Nej, jag tänkte bara gå förbi.
Hoppas bussen kommer nu så jag slipper
So what she just said is basically, I don't want to talk to him. Let's talk about that for just a couple of seconds, because the rest of the PPT slides don't talk about it. In some countries, it's okay not to talk to strangers, even not to talk to people that maybe you somehow know. Korea is an example. Walking on the street, usually you do not talk. Getting into an elevator, usually you do not talk. If you talk on the elevator, some people may think you're not normal, you're dangerous or crazy. So in countries, this video is just talking about Sweden, and it's possibly similar ideas in many countries, many Western cultures, but remember to try to research where you're going. Japan, Korea, usually you're walking in the street or you're on an elevator, you're walking down a hall at the school, talking to somebody walking by may not be the norm.
Hur är det själv?
Jag säger att jag är på väg till psykologen och inte jobbar på 2 år. Jo, det är bra.
Äntligen kommer bussen, nu slipper jag honom.
Nu kommer bussen, men vi ses.
Ja, det var kul att snacka. Vi kanske kan ses. Vi träffas. Vi har inte snackat sedan 9:an. Nu kommer hon tycka att du är jätteskum.
Swedish people like to mind their own business. They don't get on the street and talk to everyone. They just want to go out and go to the place where they want to go without any distraction, ideally. Sweden is a vast country. People have been living more spread out, and they're used to being alone, being like just within their small group, and maybe not having so much contact to other people who are living in other villages, etc. And this kind of culture that's from like many hundred years from before, it still exists a little bit more and more present, even within among those Swedish people living in cities, for example.
Okay, so that's the main idea. He just finished saying, what? Do Swedish people, are they good at small talk? Do they do small talk a lot? What did he just say?
It was a thing from 100 years ago, and it's still going on till now, till up until present, that people usually do not talk to each other or avoid small talking, and they're really comfortable with their own small groups, and they try to avoid talking to other people from other villages.
Great. Any idea, again, why? Because in Korea, there's a different reason for it. Why did he say Swedes are comfortable not talking to others?
Because they're comfortable with their by being just by themselves or their small group.
Yes, they generally have a big country and it doesn't have many people, so people are very spread out. If you are spread out by yourself a long time, you're comfortable by yourself, great. What about Canada? Canada is even a bigger country with also a small number of people, but we are the opposite. Usually walking down the street, even if somebody's on the other side of the highway, we still say, hey, how are you doing? Or have a nice day, or Merry Christmas, even if you've never seen them before. So each country is definitely different. Any comments about the Korean style versus the American style that we just saw versus the Swedish style we just saw? Any special comments there? Going once, twice. What I'd like to do now is go through a few verbal expressions just talking about small talk. Is this good? Is this bad? What could be a danger in it if you're using this in other cultures? And then we're going to put you into groups to check these main topics and try to teach it in class. So the whole idea of small talk. Hello, goodbye, please. Sorry, I'm having a great time. Thank you so much. No, thank you. This is such a delightful country. This whole idea of I'm having a good time. Does anybody here know how to make a hand sign or a body gesture about I'm having a good time in every country in the world? Because this in Canada means I'm having a good time. But in other cultures, it is an insult, a big insult. This means I'm okay in Canada. But as we talked about last week, in other countries, it is an insult. Anybody know a universal way to say or show I'm having a great time? Anybody know? I can give you bonus points for it. I guess not. Usually, yes, but there are countries where this is an insult. This is the same as this in some countries. So yeah, same as this. This means okay in some countries. Other countries, it means bad things. Simple versions of this. French, the whole idea of good day, goodbye, please, thank you. There is the translation here and the sounds in several different languages. You can go through that on your own if you want. S'il vous plaît, take a look at this in your own free time. Hopefully people have checked this in advance. The whole idea in the United States, each country is different. Sometimes people say sure, sometimes people say okay, sometimes people say no. That in itself, just saying sure, can be considered bad in many places because it's so short. This idea of it being short, the briefness is kind of like saying, I don't want to talk to you. So it is considered rude. Make sure you think twice. You think it's no problem, sure, but in other countries it could be rude. People in the southern United States, they even expanded, for example. And the simple idea of saying, don't mention it. That's a way of saying, you're welcome. If somebody says thank you, you say, don't mention it. That could very easily translate into an insult. Basically means stop talking. But in the United States, it's a very polite thing to say. So check what is the courtesy of what you're talking about. Many simple things that you think are good can be considered rude by other people. Same as what's up or how's it going? Very, very, very popular in North America, but in most other countries, it makes no sense at all. Next, this idea of some people want new jobs. Would you like a job doing the graveyard shift? Some people think, whoa, what are you talking about, graveyard shift? Work with dead people, killing people? No. Anybody want to define the idea of what a graveyard shift means in North America?
I think it's like the late hours of the night shift.
Night. So night jobs or the graveyard shift when most people are sleeping or dead tired. Yes, it doesn't have anything bad associated with it. It's just talking about a time of day. Obviously, this can scare some people. So now what I want you guys to talk about is small talk. What is small talk? What can you talk about? Can you talk about age in Korea? Yes, you're supposed to. Many places around the world, you're supposed to. Many North Americans, Canadians, and Americans, they would say, no, 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 you can't talk about it. However, in most of the world, you actually have to be respectful. If you're talking to somebody that's older than you, but you talk to them like they're an equal or a younger person, that is insulting them. You need to know their age in order to know how to talk to them. What about weight? I've seen many people in some countries talking about, oh, my friend, she's so fat, why are you talking to her? Or the idea of, you look beautiful today versus, oh, today you're looking really ugly, what happened? Some friends say that's okay to talk about. However, I think even if I talk to my family members back in Canada about that, they'd hit me. So where you are depends on what you can talk about. Salary, are you allowed to talk about how much money you have? Some places, they think it's not a bad thing. Other places, it's considered just as rude as these others, depending on where you are. What about the truth? Isn't the truth a good thing? Do you like my class? Is this perfect? Is there any way we can improve? A lot of people avoid talking about that. Even if my teaching style is terrible, people usually don't say it's bad. They usually say good. Anybody want to challenge? I'm asking the whole class now. We have 18 people here today, or 19 people, 20 people here. How can we improve this class? Any ideas? Once, twice, 3 times. So I waited a while, no comments. Does that mean it's a perfect class? Absolutely not. I know I'm not perfect, but people aren't even sharing the truth. So how can you talk about that? How can you improve? If you want to go to a different country and improve, especially in some places where they're very worried about making you comfortable, they're not going to say you're making a mistake. If I go to Japan and basically accidentally swear at a person and insult the person, they're probably not going to tell me I'm insulting them. And I may continue to go all around the city insulting people, thinking foolishly or misunderstanding that it's okay. So When can you do it? How can you do it? Any suggestions? How can you improve? Was that clear? You want me to repeat it? What about Arfin? When is the truth okay to you, Arfin? Is my class perfect? Any ideas how to improve?
Um,
Go ahead.
so I think it seemed perfect, but for me, I think you talk too much rather than the students, and while for me, I think I faced very difficult when it's come to presentation, because I just want to present and not discussing too much about that one. So maybe it will improve.
Okay. Has there been, thank you very much for that comment, first of all. Regardless of what he said, how do you manage when somebody gives you one more time. How do you manage when somebody gives you a comment? If it's a good comment, how should you respond? Sometimes there's a good response, sometimes there's a bad response. If somebody gave me a compliment and I say, I know, that could be bad. If somebody gives me a compliment and I say, oh, don't mention it, that could be insulting them, making them feel bad. If somebody gives me a compliment or suggestion to improve, or even an insult, should you argue? Generally, some people say there's no right answer. A lot of research says you should appreciate insults. You should appreciate complaints. Why? They say one person feeling bad that speaks is rare. It's equal to 20 people that feel the same way that don't say something. So that one person is a spokesperson helping you understand what other people feel. There's not really great research telling you what you're supposed to do. But yes, the idea of talking could be a bad habit for me. I invite you guys to share more in class. Any idea of, do I invite you guys to talk more in class? Anybody remember? Anybody remember if I've ever had a class not asking you to share information and telling you, if you share, I will reward you? And I've started the class saying, I don't want to talk. I want to guide your conversation. So yes, that concept is good. What about anybody else? How do you deal with the truth in your mind, in your country?
I feel like if it's a good truth, like that's okay. But if it's like a hurtful truth, then I mean, I feel like that's only for like close relationships.
It's okay for close relationships?
I think it can be, but some harsh truths should just maybe be untold. Like, you look really ugly in that shirt. You don't need to say that.
Are there any Koreans here? Solmin Kim, are you Korean or Korean American? Where are you from?
I'm from South Korea, sir.
Okay. Are you very adept at fashion? Are you quite fashionable? Would you know of people that would tell other people that you don't look very good in those clothes? Have you ever heard that in Korea?
Well, if that kind of comments came out from other people evaluating me, I don't think I was able to hear that, because if they cannot speak in front of me, then that means that they are not comfortable speaking to me about that. So they went to other people and spoke about it. So I haven't heard other people commenting in such manner, sir.
Are there any Korean ladies here today? Any Korean ladies here? Doesn't seem to pop out at me. I have seen and heard from many Korean ladies that even friends walking outside, if one friend is using something that's not fashionable or looks bad or looks ugly, it's kind for another friend to tell them that's out of fashion or that's ugly. You're helping them be aware of the fashion versus what Gwen just said, you shouldn't do it. Is it better to have a friend look bad, or is it better to tell them? What about that, Gwen?
I mean, I think there's a difference between saying like, oh, that looks ugly, and like, you look ugly. That's what I would say.
Okay, when was the last time you told somebody that that shirt looks ugly? The whole idea is each culture is different. Korea is definitely different than the United States. Some places it is okay to talk about those things. Other places it's not. Any other cultures? You want to talk about the idea of what might be rude in your country that might be confusing in other countries?
Well, in my culture, I'm from Uzbekistan, we not usually talk about the age and weight and about the outlook or either they wear fashionable clothes or not. It's like considered kind of rude in our culture. But it's quite common to talk about the salary or some performance, their background about their studies or their achievements. It's totally okay.
Sorry, did you say you cannot talk about age, you cannot talk about weight, but you can talk about salary?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, what about another country? Any other country?
It's the opposite in Vietnam. So in Vietnam, it's comfortable to talk about age because when you ask somebody age, you are able to call them like we have a sister and brother, and we need to put that at the end of the sentence to show our politeness. So it's quite comfortable to talk about age, but not salary.
And to translate what she's talking about, almost everyone in Korea is family. So almost all guys are brothers, almost all girls are sisters. I think that's what she was talking about. She doesn't necessarily mean she has a million sisters and brothers, right, Pa?
Yes. It's like Nuna and Ernie or Oppa in Korean. Sorry, I'm not good with Korean, but I think it's something similar.
Yes, very good. So we have over 15 people today. My plan is again to go through, and you can see here, this has 3 stars and it's talking about cultural differences in dress and appearance. This has 4 stars and it's talking about office customs and practices. So this is about office customs, office customs, office customs, office customs. I'm going to try to divide you into groups, and your group, if it says group 1, group 2, group 3, try to go through and identify the number of stars. Teach this to the class soon and try to find an example on Google or the internet to share that with the group. Any questions about that before we start? No? So the number 2 is for superstitions. Number 3 is talking about cultural differences in clothing, dress, appearance. Number 4 is talking about office customs. Number 5 is talking about bribery. Number 6 is talking about foods. There's several other topics, but we're just going to try to divide you guys into 6 different groups to start with. Can you guys remind the class, where can you find this? Because as soon as I put you into a group, you won't be able to see these PPT slides anymore. Imingyu, do you know where you can see these slides? How you can see these slides? When I put you into the group. Once, twice, no? Will win?
Yes, sir.
Comment where, like, I'm going to put you into groups and you can't see this anymore. How can you see these slides on your own?
It's quite small.
You're not really.
We have a link in the group chat.
Was that Soman Kim? Are you trying to help the details?
No, this is Jasur, and we have a link in the group chat. Hoa just sent it.
Okay, what I was about to say is everybody should be aware of this. Everybody should be aware of our class details. We are week 12 and the details for every week are here. So the link for the PPT is here. And in our PPT, the very first slide shows the link for this. If you wanted to take a photo and just type this in, this is the short form to open it. Otherwise, again, go into this link here. Make it even a little bit bigger. While we're doing that, since this is only a few slides each, I don't want you to just focus on that alone. Since we're almost finished the class, I also want you guys to not only teach those few slides, like group 2 is going to teach this slide, superstitions. You guys have almost the most slides. Group 3, cultural differences in clothing. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're basically finished. The other thing I want you guys to do is to go back and also pick one of these weeks to also try to summarize to the class. What was the main lesson that you think was taught here? Does anybody want to select chapters or select weeks and the materials? Let's start. We are doing week 12 now. You don't need to summarize this week now, but I would like, for example, group 2, try to summarize what we talked about last week, that whole idea of global etiquette. So you're going to teach the group 2 is the second topic and the topic from here. The group 3 is going to talk about week 10. And you keep going backwards from our week. This is our week. This is the 1 week we're in right now. If you go another away, that's week 2. So group 2 will do this one. Group 3 will do this one. Group 4 will do week 9, etc. Great. Any questions before we start and start getting people into groups? Okay. How can you what? You're going to be with me joining several different groups, talking about it. So there's, okay. We'll do this for right now. It's 3:50. We have 25 more minutes of class. We're going to try to do this for 10 minutes. So go through, try to not only summarize the lesson, get ready to summarize the lesson for the class, come up with an example, but also try to summarize, since we're at the end of the course, what was the review material? What did you find most interesting or most educational about material in the previous weeks? So. So now you get to be group one with me. So what we're talking about is this, first of all, hopefully you have the textbook. And if you understand, you have the PPT, group 2 and group 3, group 4. I haven't done group 1. Group 1 could be us, just talking about verbal expressions. So there's lots of verbal expressions that are started with, and there's lots of information afterwards. Whatever you're interested in looking at, see if you can find a topic and find an example. Ali Akbar and Kamanjani, how are you doing today?
Great.
And Moon Taekyun, I assigned everybody that was in class, I already put into groups. Did you hear those instructions in class, or do you want me to repeat them?
Can you please repeat, Professor? My internet was not good, so I went and came back.
You want me? Do you remember which group you were in? I can figure. What about Moon Tae-kyun? Moon Tae-kyun, are you there? No. Ali Akbar, are you there? They started the internet connection and then they just didn't join. So I will put you, Kamanjani, into a breakout room.
Okay, Professor.
So Ali Akbar and Moon Tae-kyun, again, I'm asking you if you guys are here. If you are here, I can explain details and assign you to a room. But if you're not talking or communicating, I think you're actually not in class. No comments? I guess you're not in class. Okay. Go ahead, you can start, yes, sir. If your group would like to share what were those details, that would be great.
Can I share my screen?
Just a sec, I can let you. Yes, you can share your screen now.
Okay.
Can you talk about it since we're almost out of time? Would you be able
Yeah,
to?
I can just talk about that. So our group's topic was taboos and superstitions. And superstitions are beliefs that are inconsistent with the known laws of science or what a society considers true or rational. So different countries, different cultures have different superstitions that they believe. For example, in South Korea, the number 4 is believed a bad luck. So as if you go to buildings or elevators, you don't see number 4 on the elevator or 4th floor on buildings. And also there are some taboos and superstitions in other cultures as well. For example, in Indonesia, new married couples they're not supposed to use the bathroom after marriage for 3 days because they believe that it's it's gonna make them more close and they're gonna have a healthy baby.
Okay.
And yes, sir, can you share the picture of that we have in the slide so it will be more understandable for the students?
I can't share my screen. I don't know why.
You can show it here. I will show it for you.
Yeah, Professor, can you show it?
We are basically out of time, so we are just going to talk about this one. As everybody can try to prepare to present this quickly next class. So what we're talking about here, this Indonesian group, they're saying that after the marriage, you're not supposed to use the bathroom. Any other comments you had about that?
Yes, on the right side, no haircut before exam in Vietnam. It means that if you will cut your hair, it means losing your memory. So it's not common for Vietnamese to cut before the exam. For the throwing your furniture out of the window in South Korea, in South Africa, it means beginning of the new year. We also have such kind of beliefs. So we would like to share picture, but as far we cannot share the screen. Maybe we can explain. We just put the Jessor, can you try horse?
Professor, how do you say the metal on the horses, in the bottom of the horse, metal thing, this shape?
Stirrups.
What?
The stirrups?
Yeah, that stirrups. We put it in our country. We put it on top of the door, and it means it brings luck and wealth. So we thought it would be a superstition that we have in our country.
That metal is called the horseshoes, right at the bottom. Okay, so thank you. You have shared one example, and next class, I'd like everybody to try to prepare to share your example. And as I said, if you are group 2, go 2 weeks back and summarize what was most memorable part of the week 2 weeks ago. If you're group 3, go 3 weeks back and summarize what was the most memorable part of the class 3 weeks ago. Group 6, you may be going back 6 weeks back, but you'd have to skip over week 8 and week 7 because we didn't have lectures. So you'd go into that week and summarize what was most interesting or memorable about that lesson about cross-cultural communications. Thank you very much, folks. Any questions?
Going for this time, it was clear, Professor. Thank you.
It would be best if you share this in Facebook so that you can remember details for next class.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Goodbye, Professor.